Hi guys, it's Matt here from MCS Books, and today I am joined by the lovely Davide from David Hook. So Davide, would you like to tell the people about your channel?
I basically do the same as Matthew does, that I basically talk about the books that I read, the books that I like, but I feel like you put more effort into discussing deeper themes that I do, which is something that I like about your channel.
I put what I learned from my degree in, which is the social science, or humanities at least. And it could be a little bit harder for you to put in your mathematics, physics degree into your channel, but yes.
Yeah.
I will link to Davide's channel down below so you can check him out if you wish to. So today we are going to be talking about BookTube versus Bookstagram. Now, Davide and I have we actually met on Bookstagram. We met like last summer, I think it was, that we started following each other and talking quite a bit more. So we have been on Instagram for a while. For me, I was on Instagram first before BookTube. For Davide, it was the other way around. Yes. And I think it's going to be really interesting to talk about today because when I first created my Bookstagram account, I had the intention that I was going to consolidate all of my online persona across all sort of platforms and that they would all be the same and that they would kind of all fit into each other. But actually, I've found that they're all very disjointed from each other. And the way that I use Instagram is so much more different to the way that I use YouTube, and then the effort that I put into Instagram is now kind of waning because I'm putting more effort into YouTube for particular reasons, which I think will probably come up later in the video. But yeah, I thought it'd be interesting to kind of take these discussions and have a little fun with it. Mm-hmm. So Davide, tell us a little bit about your use of Instagram.
So as you said, my process was quite the opposite as what you did. But again, the aim was basically the same, which was to sort of expand to a different audience using different means, but sort of conveying the same ideas. But then again, Instagram is a totally different media than what YouTube is. So I do find Instagram to be more demanding for me than YouTube, even though the time I dedicate to YouTube is way more than the time that I dedicate to Bookstagram, simply because YouTube, as you know, requires the time of filming, the time of editing, and the time of answering the comments, assuming you do get comments. But yeah, and it's totally different from the time you need in order to take a picture, or to think about a picture and take a picture and then post it, especially because I feel like most of the people that are on Instagram don't really care about what you write with your picture, so you could have a really short caption, which is not something you can do on YouTube because you need to say things.
Yeah, and there's definitely a difference between the way that other people use the platforms, not the creators, but the consumers, I guess you could say. And I found that my time on YouTube, even though it's been shorter than my time on Instagram, has actually, I've engaged so much more with the community, and I've made some real meaningful sort of relationships and friendships from the BookTube community more than I have from the Bookstagram community. Mm-hmm. With the Bookstagram, it's more about quick fixes of aesthetic pleasure than actual engagement and people trying to read and learn new things, whereas the sort of ideas that I have work so much better on YouTube because I'm able to speak about them. People then actually seem to appreciate it and comment and take it further, whereas on Instagram people probably are less likely to read the comment or the caption in which I explain what I'm thinking. So yes, today I thought it would be a fun sort of experiment or challenge, I don't know what it is, but we're gonna see the difference between the way the creator makes photos for Instagram and the way that the consumer or the viewer uses Instagram. So what we're going to do is I'm going to first of all choose my top 5 favorite photos from my entire Instagram feed, and I'm going to explain to Davide and to you guys about them, and then Davide is going to do the same for his feed, and then we're going to swap, and I'm going to choose my top 3 pictures from Davide's feed, and explain why I liked them, and he's going to choose his top 3 from mine, and then we're kind of going to see whether we've made the same choices or not, what the similarities and what our thinking has been behind creating and viewing. So we're going to start off with my feed. So of course we're going to be looking at the phone whilst we do this, but I shall post the picture somewhere on the screen in editing, so you guys can also see and you guys can kind of get to know your opinions about it too. So my first one is this one. It's quite an early one that I made, and it's part of a Bookstagram tag that I created. And it was the Pride book tag, and it was in June, so it was for Pride month, and it was a week-long book tag, which I was hoping more people would kind of like engage in, rather than just doing the one book tag post and kind of forgetting about it and not really engaging much with it. Only one other person actually joined in with this book tag. But thank you, Isa, for doing that with me. So I chose this photo as one of my favourites because not only is it one of my favourite books, David Mitchell's Number 9 Dream, but also I just like the way the colours worked for it. The theme of the tag was each day was a different colour of the rainbow flag with different meanings, and this one was obviously purple. And I don't know, it just turned out really well. It was like taken at the perfect time, and I was really pleased. I only needed to take, I think, 2 or 3 like pictures before I had like this one, which it doesn't happen often. In all fairness, not when I'm like in the shot too. And then my second favourite is this one. Mm-hmm. Now for this one, it's one of my favourite books again. However, it was more the memory behind this picture, where this photo was taken in Hong Kong. It was in my favourite bookshop / cafe / cinema. It was like just one of these magical places that has everything you need in one place. And I used to spend so much time there, and I loved it. So this picture just kind of like encapsulates that memory and that place in a photo. But also, I just like the way it looks. I like the way I've managed to catch the orange in the different parts of the wood and the saucer with the body on the cover. And I just like the shapes of it too. It's got like the square, rectangles and circle. So yeah, I'm no artist, but I think it looks pretty good.
Yes, it does.
So then the third photo, which is my favourite, is this one, with The Enchantress of Florence by Salman Rushdie. Now this book, again, it's more than memory. It just happened to be like the perfect book that I had in my bag in the perfect place. This is a bar in Hong Kong, and a really nice experience. You kind of have to go down a secret alley and then up some secret stairs, and then you get into this place, and there was this one corner that me and my friends were occupied, I guess, and it just had really old antique books that kind of were delicate but really aesthetically pleasing and everything, and they were actually real books, they weren't just fake ones. So then, yeah, I was like, wait, I need to take a photo here. So I set up like the bookshelves and books on the table, which were already there, and then I just managed to put out my one. And I think the book matches the scene perfectly. And again, it's more the memory attached to it, because it was my friends all had their phones, because it was very dark in this bar. They all had their phone torches like shining onto the book just so I could get enough light to take it. And it just makes me happy to think about. I didn't really like the book that much, but the memory and the way that I had to set it up really pleases me. And then the next one that I chose was this one. This one, again, is more, I don't know, it's a fun photo, and I hadn't really taken a photo like this before. And it was just more like a spur of the moment thing. I just woke up that day and was getting ready to go to the beach in Sweden, which is like a big thing, and I got sunburnt. And I picked, this was the book I was currently reading, and I realised that it matched my clothes. So I like threw it on the bed, threw myself on the bed, took it, and it was like very much like a one-shot take. And it just turned out so well and so nicely that I like the colours. Yeah. I like the way that I matched with the book.
It's quite nice.
Yeah. And then my last choice is this one. Now, Davide was there when I took this, because I took it in his home, and it's his book, actually, that I read. I did enjoy this book. There were some things that I had a few issues with, but most of all, I enjoyed like the concept behind it, and it was surrealism, and I had just like rekindled my love for surrealism sort of like before I read this book, so it all kind of came to a head with this picture, and I had like the perfect idea, and like I was able to take the theme of the book and like put it into like a sort of an artistic take, I guess. So there was a lot of thought that went into this, and I don't think it actually translated well. because there's specific symbolism within the surrealist movement with the umbrella and the sewing machine. And yeah, so for me, like, what I love about this picture is like the craft that I actually put into it. It was one of my least populars on my feed, actually.
I mean, I can understand why it's not liked, because it's not the typical one, and the typical one are the typical ones because people like them.
So what's the typical Bookstagram picture in your opinion?
I feel like most of the times you either have a very plain picture that must have sort of a light background to it. I find like lighter pictures have more likes than darker pictures, and the ones I think that also are very popular are the ones where they have props that relate to the books, as in physical objects, because people sort of, I think at least that's what goes behind the process of liking such a picture, is if I see props that relate to the fandom or whatever this book is about, then I sort of feel like the person who has taken this picture is one of the members of this fandom, and so I can sort of like him or her more, and then like their pictures.
Yeah.
Also, of course, it goes with the popularity of the book, and this book is not really that popular out there. Yeah.
But do you also think with the props?
Yeah.
I don't interpret it that the props match the picture. The props match the person's aesthetic. Like, I've noticed a lot of feeds, because neither Davide nor I, at the moment, you did once have like an aesthetic or a theme for your feed, but I don't, and I never have. But a lot of the most popular Bookstagrammers do have like an aesthetic or overall theme for their feed.
Yeah.
And then oftentimes they have the props that match the feed, but not actually the books, which I find strange.
No, yeah, I do get it, but that, you know, with Funko Pops and such and such, we both hate that, and it's okay. But I mean, in that case, you're matching the book more than the aesthetic.
Yeah. Although sometimes I see like Harry Potter Funko Pop with, I don't know, something completely random, like Terry Pratchett or something, and I'm like, okay, magic? I don't know. So what did you think of the 5 photos that I chose?
So I personally didn't like the third one.
Oh yeah, Enchantress.
I don't really like that picture, but I
Why
why you like it. Well, because that's not the sort of pictures that I like, and you will see the sort of pictures that I do like. I just don't feel positive about it. I mean, it's not a bad picture, but it's not a picture that I do like.
It's not very like eye-catching. It's not something that you would, when you're scrolling through, it's not something that you'd be like, oh, what's this?
Yeah.
It's quite...
Whereas I do think that the other ones are are some of the best that you've taken.
And what do you think about my not having a theme to my feed?
I feel like it's okay, because not having a theme in your feed is sort of a theme.
How meta.
So meta, I know.
I have definitely, recently, I have been... actually saying this, I haven't had a theme specifically, but I have gone through phases where there was like a phase where I always had myself in the pictures. There was a phase when I would always have a certain like shade of colour, I guess. And then recently I've had a phase, or I'm going through the phase where I'm using a lot of like editing to add like extra meaning to my pictures. So like, for example, this one, I really like this one. And this was one to kind of promote a YouTube video that I made. I don't know, I like the way that I edited it, and I like the...
That is a nice picture.
Yeah, and like, it gives you enough to know what the YouTube video is about, but it doesn't give... Because usually I used to post a thumbnail, but then I was like, oh, but that's just a bit boring. So that kind of like gives you like an idea and like a intrigue, I guess. So now, we're going to go through Davide's feed, and he's going to talk about his 5 favourites.
Yes. So, let's go into chronological order. So this is the first one, and this is actually the first picture I posted on Bookstagram or on Instagram, even though the purpose was clear. I mean, it was to talk about books, because that's what I do, and also because I was coming from BookTube to Instagram. I mean, I can acknowledge that it is not a good picture, as in it's not well balanced, it's just like a picture of a page. It's not a good picture of a page. But as you mentioned, it's more of the meaning behind it. I mean, with me, this was such a silly meaning behind it, because I was reading, I think it was Pride and Prejudice. I know by fact that it was Jane Austen, because I can remember that, but I don't remember the book, because I went through a phase when I read like 3 of her books, one after the other, so I can't really remember which one it was now. But yeah, and she doesn't have any paragraph in the book, and I really hate interrupting my reading somewhere when the author doesn't tell me that I can stop the narration there. But also the chapters in this book were quite long, and I remember, I think it was quite late at night when I took this picture, and I really wanted to go to bed, and it's like an operation and manifesting of this paragraph after I don't know how many pages of the book, and I was so excited that I had to tell everybody that finally Jane Austen had made a paragraph somewhere. And so yeah, that's why I posted it. But yeah, that's sort of silly, but it has meaning, yeah. And I quite like it also because it's the first one. It's sort of the beginning of something. So this is the second one, and I'm quite proud of this picture, because I feel like, for whatever reason, I took this picture after I came back to Italy from Germany. In my mind, that for some apparent reason I had to balance all the colors in the picture. I had never done it before, but for some reason I thought that was to be the essence of Bookstagram, so balancing colors, or at least the essence of a good picture.
Yeah.
And this is quite an easy book to match color with, because it's just plain black and white, and then you have a blue color, a blue title. So yeah, I mean, the first thing that came to my mind when I wanted to do that is, oh well, this is a book with which I could do that easily, and then this could be the start of me doing that with all other pictures, which of course it wasn't, but then in my mind it was the start of something. But I'm quite proud of what came up to be at the end of everything. Okay, that's the third one, and this is just, I think, right before I decided to have a theme in my feed, basically because this picture brought up a theme I could use. But I like this picture. I feel like this is a good picture as for lighting, as for theme, and as for, yeah, presentation of the whole thing. But yeah, this was an artistic thing an artistic way of representing what the book is about. So this is the Dictator's Handbook. I don't remember the authors, and they are written in such a tiny font that I can't really read them. But yeah.
I will link it down below.
Yes. And it's quite a good book. It's a book about politics, but it's sort of shaped like a handbook that's written for people who want to be dictators. And so I felt like I had to capture the structure of the book, and I had to make this sort of a coup on the chessboard. And yeah, so that's the whole construction of the picture, and I was really proud of it. Apparently other people weren't, because this is one of my least liked pictures that are not like for 4 years ago. So yeah, but I do like this picture. And then we are going on to the phase where I actually had a theme in my feed, which was the simplest theme I could have, because I don't have that many props or whatever. But I do like chess, and yeah, I do like contrasting colors, and I felt like I could mix the two things and have one blackish picture or darker picture and a whiter picture, alternating them.
So it looked like a chessboard on you.
Yes, that's the point. And this is actually one of my favorite books ever, and I read it last year, I think. And I was really, really excited to do this picture, because I thought about it whilst reading the book. I was like, oh, I have the perfect way of capturing the essence of the book again, because this book is about how the scientists changed the whole structure of science from the medieval science to modern science. And so I felt like I could capture two things in the picture, one being represented by the book, which is supposed to tell you about modern science, and the other being represented by the chalk drawings, being the whole solar system with the Earth at the center. And I was really proud of this picture, but again, oh well, it has less light than the other one, but it it's one of the ones with which the process took quite a long time, because I had to like properly color the planets, as you can see, on paper, then make the balls of paper, and then steal some chalk from university and draw some orbits on my desk. But again, I think like this is not as appreciated as other of my picture because of the book, more than because of the picture.
It's less accessible to like popular.
Yeah, because I feel like this is a good picture. I mean, I am pleased with the result, as from an aesthetic point of view, also as from a thought behind it point of view. And this is the last one, and I chose this one because it sort of represents the other extreme of my feed, as in this is a picture that many people liked, but this is literally a picture that doesn't actually represent me as a reader, because this is just something that I sort of tried to do into capturing what I feel like people like on Instagram or on Bookstagram. And I feel like I was quite successful, and so I'm proud of it. But also, I feel like this is sort of cheating on who I am as a creator and as a reader, because it's just a very popular book, even though basically nobody has read it. It's War and Peace. And yeah, it's not capturing in any way the essence of the book. It's not capturing the essence of me reading the book, because it's a huge chunk of a book, so I could never read it in that position. But I'm proud of it because I sort of could exploit the system in a clever way, because it got quite a huge amount of likes for my average.
Yeah. Did you use it as a sock Sunday, but without socks?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's my...
Exploiting the hashtag.
Yes, without having socks.
So now I'm going to go through Davide's feed and choose my top 3 favourites of his feed. And actually, none of my favourites were his favourites, so interesting. My first one is quite early on. Bear in mind, I hadn't followed you. I only followed you since summer last year.
Mm-hmm.
However, you've been on there for 4 years.
Yeah.
So a lot of his feed to me was just unknown, and I was like, I looked through it and I was like, oh wow, I didn't see all this. But I chose pictures from once I had joined Instagram and joined your profile. So my first one is this one. It's an attractive picture, but also I like the fact, well, we both hate the book. We don't like this book, which we have connected over in a way. But also I like it because he's kind of like encaptured like the feeling of the book and like the sense of this bohemian look. I don't know, with the tank top, the dark background, the book cover, and I think also the colour of your skin obviously is a colour that I like, because it kind of matches some of my favourite pictures of my feet with the colours. Yeah, I don't know, I just like the feel and I like the aesthetic and I like the look of this picture.
And if you want to know, this is one of the picture that took less time for me to prepare, because I took this picture with this background and in this apparel only because I was late for classes, and I had so again, this is when my feed had a theme, and I had to post a black picture that day, because back then I was doing a picture a day, and I hadn't prepared any dark picture, and I couldn't take a dark picture at university because all the desks have white colors. So I threw the first black thing that I owned on my bed and said like, well, selfie. With it.
Yeah. Well, it turned out well. My second one is this one. Well, because you did this whole like kind of twisted thing with your blanket on quite a few of your pictures, but I like this one the most just because I like the coffee in the middle, and I think, I don't know, knowing you also kind of made me appreciate this picture more, because like coffee is like your life. Coffee and books is kind of like you manifested in a picture. But I like the way that you actually managed to kind of get the knot and the swirl of the blanket in with the coffee, and then had the book on top, and it kind of like matches and it makes sense, and I like this picture.
I guess it's one of the first time which I did it.
No.
But I did it for War and Peace as well, but it's a plant there. So yeah, I'm really fond of my twirling the blanket, and I do feel like that's a good picture also because it sort of captures the blanket looks like a wheel and the book is a book in the series of The Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan and then Brandon Sanderson.
And then my last favourite was this one. Again, it was mostly just because it encapsulates you.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. I like it because I think I'm like my desk and everything is never tidy and meticulous, and I find this kind of very organic and raw. Like I don't know. You know when you see all these perfect Instagram pictures.
Yeah.
When like I know because I have taken these perfect Instagram pictures where I have like pushed everything just out of the frame of the camera and then like made just like one square perfect and nobody can see the mess without. But I like it just because you can see like the mess, but it makes sense and it fits, and I like the shapes and the colours.
Yeah, it has got a nice picture. Yeah, I mean, this was the situation of my desk because I was preparing exams back then. Yes, it was August.
See, raw and organic.
Yeah.
Davide is now going to choose his top favourite 3 of mine. Well, you've kind of got 4, haven't you? Because there were 2 which he grouped together.
Yeah, because you sort of have done twice a thing that I really like about pictures in general, pictures of books in general, and this is the first one in which you did it, and this would be the second one in which you did it. And I don't know, for whichever reason, I do like the whole book in the front and building in the background or a skyline or whatever. And this isn't a book I particularly enjoyed, and neither is the other one, because I haven't read it, so I can't judge it. But I feel like this is an aesthetically pleasing picture. And yeah, I do like the colours and whatever.
Yeah, this one's actually a really popular one on my feed.
Yeah.
And this was taken almost 2 years ago. This was long before I had Instagram. And it was taken with my DSLR camera back in the day when I had that. And it was for Tumblr, in fact.
Ooh.
So, yeah, it wasn't planned for Instagram, but I had it on my computer and I knew I needed to post to Instagram that day. So, like, in a panic, I was just like, oh, what do I have? And then grabbed this picture and put it up. And it turned out really popular.
The other one is this one. And I sort of feel like this is cheating on the purple thing came up to be perfect and the swimsuit was perfectly matched, because I feel like some of your pictures are colorly perfectly matched. And I feel like, I don't know, I mean, it's David Mitchell, so it sort of has a grade that starts above the other ones only because it's David Mitchell. But also, I haven't read Slade House.
You should. Good book.
I will. But I feel like this is, again, a really nice picture to look at, because you have sort of a balancing between the book and the background. You have the colors are the same, and I really don't understand why this got so many less likes.
This got very few likes. It's probably one of like my least favorite, or the least favorited by the people on my feed. But it's funny that you mentioned about the colors, because actually with like my pink swim shorts and my blue tank top and the book that matched, that was more like a happy coincidence than a little accident. This one is a lot more contrived. I had to find a decent spot in my mum's house to take this photo. And again, this was another one that I took almost 2 years ago for Tumblr, and posted it because I just needed another photo for that day. Yet this one failed in garnering likes.
Again, talking about likes and whatever, you can understand when it is sort of a unknown book. But I feel like Slade House...
David Mitchell, though, he's not that unknown. But he's not like... He is definitely a sort of well-known author in particular circles of BookTube and Bookstagram, which aren't like the most exposed or the most liked, I guess.
Yeah, I can understand that. But I feel like Slade House sort of departs from that one, that area, as does The Bone Clocks. Because I feel like with those books, he attracted another sector of readers and therefore of creators and everything, even though he also upset quite a few, especially with The Bone Clocks. I don't understand why, because I really like that one. But anyway, and this is my last one, simply because I feel like this is sort of the representation I had in my head of you. It's just a nice picture. It's
Oh, yeah, and again, the colours
cool
actually
picture.
seem to work out. The building, my t-shirt and the book,
Yeah.
and in the background. That was, again, a happy coincidence. That was just because it was for a competition by Foyle's Books, I think. And I just saw it on Instagram, so on my lunch break I went outside, took it, and thankfully I was in Hong Kong at the time, so there was greenery, there was palm trees and everything, and
You could take it here.
it was specifically for like a summer reads competition, so I was like, perfect, this is like sort of the epitome of summer, like in this background and stuff. So yeah, I like it, but it's not one of my favourites. I'm not particularly keen on the way I look in that picture.
I mean, it doesn't really look like you, but you don't look bad.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Okay, so that's it. I think it was interesting to see that the way that the things that we both liked from each other's feed was actually different from the things that we liked from our own feed. And I think it definitely does go to show that there is definitely a loss of translation or a loss of meaning from the creator to then the viewer, the looker, the consumer, however you want to call them, the audience, let's say. Because obviously there's so much work that goes into these Instagram photos, and oftentimes there's a lot of meaning that then gets lost completely. Like for some of the photos that we said are our favourites from our own feed, we had stories behind them, and we had meaning behind them. It's all well and good putting it in the caption below, but few people actually read that. I feel like when you're on Instagram, you're looking for a much different experience. You're kind of, well, usually for me at least, I'm in bed just scrolling through, and then if I see something that's nice, click. There are some people who I do read their captions because I know they're going to say something really interesting, or they're going to not really promote, they're going to talk about and discuss a really interesting book. It's definitely not the majority of, at least the people who follow me on Instagram.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand it's the way I think Instagram, more than Bookstagram, is to be used. At least it was intended to be used, because, I mean, its pictures are the way to convey the whole thing you want to convey, being that a particularly good book, being that a particularly great experience you had, or whatever.
Susan Sontag actually talks about how once you take a photo and it kind of goes out there, the photo takes on a complete life of its own, and it's then interpreted very differently to how the artist wanted it to be interpreted. And then there's like a whole academic argument about using photography and ethnography as to how can you portray something without attaching words to it, which is really interesting, especially if you think about with Instagram. I'm certainly now more posting less on Instagram, but I do feel I'm putting a lot more thought and care into what I am posting, and I do want to try to like bring my Instagram, my BookTube together to sort of, I don't know, to keep discussions open. Obviously it's just going to take, I guess, time, and yes. But you know, I'm less worried now about getting the likes on my Instagram than I once was, because I'm actually more proud of what I'm producing.
Yes, I feel like, I don't know, for a certain type of booktuber or bookstagrammer, it's more into the discussion that goes with the book. And I mean, I do feel more realized, as I sort of told you with the pictures, when I feel like I'm conveying a certain theme that's in the book, and I get comments on that book, being that I enjoyed it, being that, oh, I hated it, being that, oh, I really don't know what this book is about, can you tell me more about it? Then if I get 10 times more likes in a picture I just took because I felt like, oh my god, this is going to be the perfect picture because it's white. Yeah,
I get you. But we're interested about your thoughts. If you have experience on both BookTube and Bookstagram, let us know your experiences, tell us your thoughts, tell us how you use Instagram and how you use YouTube, and let's keep the discussion going. So we'll see you next time for another video, and if you like this one, you can always give it a thumbs up, and you can always subscribe if you haven't already. Bye bye.
Bye.